What kind of person could pull off a heist so daring, so mysterious, that it would baffle the FBI for over 5 decades? Today, we're diving into the story of D.B. Cooper, a man who vanished into thin air after hijacking a plane and extorting a massive ransom. This mystery, dating back to 1971, has captivated people around the world, and his identity remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in American history. It all began on the 24th of November 1971 at Portland Airport. A man wearing a business suit, dark sunglasses, and carrying a briefcase bought a one-way ticket to Seattle on Northwest Orient Airlines, Flight 305. This was long before airport security was what it is today. Back then, there were no x-rays, metal detectors, or identity checks. People walked right up to the boarding gate and onto the plane without much fuss. He boarded the Boeing 727, a plane known for its distinctive rear staircase that lowered mid-flight, and took a seat at the very back, as if wanting to keep a low profile. Just minutes after the plane took off, this passenger called over a flight attendant named Florence Schaffner. With a charming smile, he handed her an envelope. Schaffner assumed it was a casual note, maybe even a harmless flirtation. But when she read the message, her heart sank. It simply said, "I have a bomb. I want you to sit next to me." The man who would later be known as D.B. Cooper had initiated a hijacking. Florence cautiously sat down beside him, and he opened his briefcase just enough for her to see what looked like dynamite sticks and a wired detonator. In a calm yet commanding tone, he listed his demands: $200,000 in cash for parachutes and a fuel truck waiting on the runway in Seattle, ready to refuel the plane upon landing. Florence relayed his demands to the cockpit, and the pilot immediately notified air traffic control. This was a first in American history, a hijacking solely for ransom. The authorities were in uncharted territory, but the FBI and local officials agreed quickly. They believed the safest route was to give in to Cooper's demands, confident that he wouldn't escape for long. After all, how far could he possibly go? Flight 305 was only a short 45-minute trip, but it circled for over an hour as Seattle's National Bank gathered $20 bills with specific serial numbers, logging each one meticulously. Cooper had also requested both military and civilian parachutes, which were collected from a nearby skydiving school. By 5:45 p.m., the plane finally landed in Seattle. Cooper stayed seated while the $200,000 stuffed into a small bag, and the parachutes were brought on board. In a gesture that gave hope he might let them go unharmed, Cooper allowed the 35 passengers and 2 flight attendants to disembark. Only the pilot, co-pilot, and a flight engineer remained. As night fell, Cooper gave the pilot new instructions. He ordered a low altitude of 10,000 feet and requested a cruising speed of just 200 miles per hour, unusually low for a commercial jet. His destination? Mexico City. However, due to fuel limitations, the pilot suggested a refueling stop in Reno, Nevada, to which Cooper agreed. The authorities had prepared a response of their own. Fighter jets were deployed to tail the plane, but the problem was they couldn't maintain such a low speed without circling. Despite the FBI's efforts to follow closely, Cooper had a plan. He instructed the crew to remain in the cockpit, ensuring no one could see what he was doing in the back. Hours passed, and finally, the moment everyone was waiting for came, but not how they expected. Somewhere between Seattle and Reno, Cooper opened the rear staircase and disappeared into the darkness. He jumped from a plane, strapped to a parachute, clutching his bag of cash, and left the crew bewildered. When the plane finally landed in Reno, the FBI searched every corner but found no trace of Cooper. There were no more parachutes, and the cash was gone. The only things left behind were Cooper's tie, 2 cigarette butts, and 1 unused parachute. But what happened to D.B. Cooper? Theories abound. Some believe he died in the jump, overwhelmed by the brutal elements and unforgiving wilderness. Others think he survived, using his training, perhaps as a former military operative, and his knowledge of parachuting to pull off the perfect escape. Despite extensive search efforts, which included combing through 45 square miles of dense forest and mountainous terrain, the authorities found no sign of Cooper or his cash. The FBI was left empty-handed and perplexed. In 1980, nearly a decade after the hijacking, a young boy playing along the Columbia River stumbled upon 3 bundles of deteriorating $20 bills. The serial numbers matched those from Cooper's ransom. This discovery breathed new life into the case, but instead of solving the mystery, it only deepened it. How did the money end up 27 miles away from Cooper's drop zone? Theories suggest it could have washed up on the riverbank over time, but others believe someone planted it there deliberately. Despite these small pieces of evidence, the trail grew cold. The FBI pursued hundreds of suspects, and although numerous theories surfaced, some suggesting he was an experienced military paratrooper, others arguing he might have even survived in hiding, D.B. Cooper's true identity remains a mystery to this day. In 2016, the FBI officially closed the case, marking it as one of the longest and most baffling unsolved cases in U.S. history. Even though the investigation formally ended, Cooper's legend lives on, inspiring books, movies, and endless speculation. Who was D.B. Cooper? How did he vanish without a trace? And could he still be out there, quietly enjoying the spoils of his audacious heist? Until new evidence emerges, we may never know. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.